Hi, everybody. My name is Jeff Huettman. I am the product director for Cengage Institutional Product Line, and I'm super excited to be here today and sharing with you all some of the thoughts and some of the experiences we've had over this past year or so as it relates to some of the obstacles that we've seen and how we've seen people creatively address those during this kind of tumultuous time. So, first of all, I kind of want to describe who we are and what we do and what our mission is. So here at Cengage, from an institutional standpoint, our mission really is to bring affordable, equitable access to higher education at scale. I think a lot of us would agree that Cengage is traditionally thought of as a publisher or a provider that traditionally deals with instructors and students primarily. But as we've moved forward through this, we've grown to really try and understand the concerns of the institution at large, because in this way, we can address these concerns more rapidly and with more scale and with more confidence around the important issues of interoperability, availability, equity, and affordability. And when we can look at this holistically, we can attack it at scale at an institutional level. So for those of you who aren't familiar, the product that we offer most primarily here is Cengage Unlimited at the institutional level. And what this does is it opens up our entire catalog of course materials to a learner. And no matter how many courses they may take from Cengage, be it 1, 15, or 100 courses, it's all the same price. It's kind of a Netflix model for our entire library of materials. And so far, we're very proud to say that we've saved people over $270 million on their course and materials so far since the product's inception a little over 2 years ago. So I think the other thing that we'd really want everybody to know about us is that, supporting faculty and student success from an institutional standpoint is something that we take a lot of pride in and something we invest a lot of time and effort in. We understand and we feel very deeply the need that students need to receive affordable, quality, inclusive materials with as little barrier as possible so that everyone has an equal opportunity to learn and they don't have to make hard choices about whether or not they have to spend money on a car payment or getting their car fixed or a textbook or something like that. In the way that we've crafted the offer, we allow institutions to take that burden off of folks. And I think the example that we point to most frequently is Ivy Tech, who's basically eliminated the idea of a variable cost for students in terms of course materials. Embracing a model like Cengage Unlimited for the institution has helped them do that. It's made costs very predictable for the student, which can be a huge barrier for them. They look at tuition and they know it to be a fee, but when they're confronted with the variability of the materials costs, that can be a daunting thing and can undermine the goal of having sort of an unobstructed learning path. But we would be really remiss if we didn't recognize the role of faculty in all of this. And so what we also attempt to do is provide a lot of high touch support from our success management teams in terms of making sure instructors understand how the offer works, how the products work, how they interoperate with the LMS, how they can get the most out of the integrations and the materials that come through those integrations, and so that they can create the online learning experience that they want for their students without having to worry about the cost associated with those things to the student. Again, referring back to how Cengage Unlimited works. And then the last thing I guess I want to mention is what we're doing to help learners, no matter where they are in terms of their ability to take in our materials. And so we've invested over $1 million in an ongoing partnership with Perkins Access, so that technology leaders and faculty can feel super confident that students of all abilities are on an equal playing field for academic success. So earlier this year, alongside with Bayview Analytics and OLC, we partnered with those two organizations. We put out a digital pulse survey, and that went out to over 1,400 students. And we kind of talked to them or asked them about what the biggest barriers were to their educational experiences. And I don't know that what we heard back was surprising, but it validated a lot of the work that we're doing here. And it gave us a lot of justification to continue to devote resources to that ongoing work. So I want to talk a little bit about the results that we saw in that survey and some of my own impressions about what I have seen. over this past year in particular, as we have worked with institutions to try and deliver our solutions at scale. So I think first and foremost, the good news is that overwhelmingly of the 1,400 students that we surveyed, they were very optimistic about the future of online learning. I think pre-pandemic in particular, there was a lot of anxiety amongst the faculty class that students were nervous about or had a lot of anxiety around online learning and everything that comes with that. But our research and our experience has been such that students are actually more optimistic about the possibilities and their ability to be successful with online learning. And I think that's that's uh, that's a heartening outcome for all of us. Excuse me. And then I think student attitudes about combining in-person and online learning are also now more positive than they were pre-pandemic. And so as we move past the pandemic and we start thinking about how we could deliver an even richer learning experience, the appropriate placement of online learning materials within the context of perhaps an on-ground course opens up a whole new world of possibilities. Perhaps it's a flipped classroom, perhaps it's some shade of that. But now I think instructors and students alike are far more willing, far more optimistic about how they can appropriately insert technology inside the classroom to augment and make more relevant that in-person time. And that gives us a lot of solid direction from a product management standpoint about how we can create even better learning experiences with that in mind. And then more than 60% of the students that we surveyed responded that they strongly or somewhat agree that they're interested in taking classes fully online, taking classes that are a mix of courses that are blended or online, and more willing to be more optimistic about online materials exclusively in their course. So if we just talk about from a learner perspective, those things, there's an optimistic message here that when the pandemic first hit, that there was a lot of anxiety on all sides around how this was going to go, the quality of learning, the ability for students to actually succeed. Would they have the connectivity? Would they have the hardware? Would we have the infrastructure? Would I have the skills as an educator to be able to deliver this experience? And what we're seeing is that the answer to that is largely yes, that this can be done. And I think even more optimistically that when it can be done, when we did it in more of a reactionary sort of panicky mode, it was still a rewarding experience for our learners. And now that we're going to get better at it every day, the future just gets brighter and brighter for our ability to appropriately inject technology into the courses. So I'm super optimistic on those fronts. Now, if I'm allowed to talk about a few things from my own experience that I think people need to keep in mind as they go forward with this journey into online learning, there's a few things I want to make sure that I want to get across, and I would love people to understand. And maybe I'm going to tell you some things that you already know, but I just want to make sure that I say them. First and foremost, there should be a patience around our online learners, particularly those folks that have made a very difficult decision in terms of investing in their educational future. The community college student, the workforce development student, the non-credit student, these folks, they've made a very difficult choice. They've made an investment in themselves. They are budgeting not just money, but time to their own futures. They've bet on their ability to succeed in this place and to gain a reward from that. And so as we think about those folks coming into our courses, a patience with them is worth its weight in gold. The other thing I would suggest is a very deliberate attention to designing your educational experience in a way that can be consumed in multiple sort of time boxed frames. So what do I mean by that? Uh, the learner today is going to have an expectation that the educational experience fit into their lives. And the educational product probably has an obligation to find a way to fit into their lives. Obviously, there are going to be certain demands on their time. Assignments are going to have to be due at a certain time. The course is going to wrap at a certain time. But things like childcare, a job, the way the transportation system may be working, uh, those are boulders that probably can't be moved. Can you design the educational experience of your course in such a way that is sympathetic to those immovable obstacles in a learner's life, so that they can be successful in your course? And then the last thing I think I'd want to mention is um, sort of the deliberate nature of how you're going to expose the educational materials to your students. A lot of folks get caught up in how many clicks does it take to get someplace in my online course. I use this analogy. If I applied that same logic to how I built a house, everything would be in the garage. I encourage you not to think about how many clicks it takes to get someplace, but instead, is the thing in its logical place? If a student were to guess where it might be, would that guess be right? Is the language that you use to describe where the materials are and how you want them to be consumed, is it human? Is it expressed in the language that your students would understand? A sympathy for this will go a long way in ensuring the successful deployment of your course. A student who has anxiety around where to find something, and indeed, if I click on that thing, will have to pay something, keep students from being as successful as they could possibly be. So when you're designing your courses, being very, very, very particular about the language you use and the arrangements you make, making those things be consistent, training your learners to find consistent resources in consistent places with consistent nomenclature is an investment worth making in your courses. And I think if you're respectful of the three things I just talked about, you're going to have a really rewarding experience with the educational product that you're trying to deliver. Can you make that course something that aligns with the lifestyle and the culture of your learner? If you can do that and incorporate the materials in a way that jives with the way the learner expects to find things, you're going to be very, very successful. And the institutions that have done that, in my experience over the past year, have been very, very successful. And then from an administrative standpoint, can you find it in yourself the willingness to change and embrace new models of how you might acquire curriculum materials, how you might deliver curriculum materials, how you might be able to arrange the costs in such a way that students can make one simple financial decision that has no catches to further their educational goals? If you can do these things, I'm super optimistic about the success you can have with your student population. So with that, I want to thank you very much for the time you've devoted to watching this presentation. And I want to thank you all for those of you who use our products and have enjoyed our products. And for those of you who are interested in our products or want to learn more about them, you have a local rep. I encourage you to reach out to them. They would be more than happy to help you along with all of the things that we talked about, because as a company, from top to bottom, we are committed to all the things I've just discussed and making sure that everyone in the context of the course is super successful. And so with that, I'll just thank you again for your time and your attention, and I wish you all nothing but the very best of luck. Thanks.